we will complete the user interface of the user profile page, for which we need to fetch the user data from the Firestore database. The user related operations we will manage using the provider state management. So go to the prospect.yml and let's include the new dependency, which is provider. Click pubget in order to install the provider, and now right click on lib, new, create a new folder by the name providers. Right click on providers, new .file, user provider, class user provider, which will extend the ChangeNotifier. Initialize the following variables, which is for the user information. So we can say user provider. In here we will call get user data. Let's implement the get user data function. Now let's create a new view model, new .file, and we will give it name as user view model. Class user view model, and here all the user related functions we will implement in here inside the user view model. So for example, the first function is retrieve user data, which we need now. So in here inside this function we will create a reference to the database, to the Firebase Firestore.instance.collection user, that specific user who is currently logged in, that user data we want to fetch. So now on the user provider, we can first create an instance of the user view model, and then we can call the function from the user view model class, which is retrieve user data. Now here we need to listen for the changes in the database, that is, let's say if the user data is updated. So in order to listen for the changes, we have to use stream subscription in Flutter. So for that purpose we can create an instance of the stream subscription, the document snapshot, user stream subscription, and before getting the user data we will make sure that we first cancel it and assign the updated data to it. So for example, we say user stream subscription.cancel, and then to this we assign the user updated data, that is user stream subscription equals to user view model dot retrieve user data dot listen for the changes, which means that the return of this function will be stream document snapshot. As you know that it returns the document snapshot, so we have to listen for the changes. Data snapshot, now as you know that the data coming from the database is in JSON format, so we have to convert it to proper normal format. So let's create models. Right click on lib, new models folder. Inside the models folder, the first model class will be the user model class. Define these attributes of the model class. Now remember, these are the we will use the same key names. We have used the same key names while storing the user data inside the database. Of course, currently we have only saved the user information like the name and email by these keywords. Okay, so now while fetching, we will make sure that we use the same key names for name, email, as well as later on from the profile page we will allow the user to update or save his address and phone number. So please make sure that you use the same key names. Through constructor we can receive, for example, required this dot name, address, email, and phone, and then convert the data from JSON to object model. So you can say map string dynamic JSON data return user model. So for example, we get the name from JSON data and it will be accessible by the name attribute. And then same, let's say if the name does not exist, let's say if it is returning us a null, or let's say that name even do not exist in the JSON data, then we can say return empty string, like we will have empty string for the name attribute. Same goes for the address, then for the email, and then for the phone. So as soon as we have now the data as we are listening to it, it will comes in JSON format. So we get that data using the data snapshot. For example, data snapshot.data as map string dynamic, as it is in the format key value pair. So key is of type string, value can be any data type. So using the user model.from JSON, we convert it to object model, which simply means that the JSON data is accessible by the attribute of the user model, like the name, JSON data name, that is the username, is accessible by name attribute, the address is accessible by address, the email is accessible by email attribute, and the phone is accessible by phone attribute. And all this we will assign to this user data. Make sure to import the user model. Now this user data contains the user information. For example, we can say now that, like, to access the user information, we can say user data dot, and you see we have access to the user address, user email, username, and user phone, which were the attributes of the user model, and where we convert the data from JSON to object model. That is, the JSON data is accessible by the attributes now of the user model. So we can say, for example, user data.name, and this we will assign to the name of user variable. The email we assign to email of user, the address and phone to the address of user, and phone number of user. Then notify the listeners, which means that update the user interface. If there is any changes in the data, it will be updated automatically on the user interface without refreshing the page. Now in here we have to implement the dispose, that is on dispose we will cancel the provider, that is user stream subscription dot cancel. So now we have managed the user information. Now whenever we need the user data, we can access it directly with the help of provider, as we are using the provider stat management. Now how? For example, now on the profile page, using provider, for example, we can say consumer, and the consumer is for the user provider, builder context user child, container, width for this container will be double dot infinity, padding will be agency.symmetric, vertical, horizontal 20 and 16, and then we apply some box decoration. gradient, linear gradient with two colors, begin top left and bottom right. After it, border radius, circular 20 from the left, and from the bottom right it is 20. After the box decoration, we can say child row widget. And first we display a circle avatar with an icon. Radius 32, background color white, icon will be icon.person, size 40, color green with shade 600. Then some space in the expanded widget. Can add column widget. Cross-axis alignment for this column will be from start. Then using the text widget, we display the name of user. Let's apply some text style on it, font weight, font size, and color will be white. Then we display the user email after the name of user. And then of course after this we will add a button. Let's say if the user wants to update his or her profile. So for example, we can say icon button with icon edit outline on pressed, and when the user click on this icon button, we will send the user to the update profile page. Now we have not yet created this page, so for now you can comment out this navigator.push name. So now on our home page, above the widget build, we can add init state, where we will add the provider for the user provider. So we can say provider dot of context, and this is our user provider which we implemented and using which we display the user information on the profile page. So we can say context listen false, and on the main.dart wrap this material app with widget, and this is now as we have provider, so we can say multi-provider. Currently we have implemented the provider which is the user provider. Later on we will of course implement it for the cart as well, but for now let's just add it for the user provider. So we can say ChangeNotifierProvider create context user provider. Now on the user provider, where we cancel the user stream subscription, instead of null check operator, we have to add this exclamation mark. It will only cancel if the user stream subscription is active. Otherwise, no need to cancel. Same we can do here on the on dispose. If it is active, only then cancel. Now you know that whenever the app runs, it creates the user provider. So at the start, if the user is not logged in yet, then on the user view model, this will throw null check operator error because the current user will be null. So we must add here a condition which will check if the Firebase current user, if this become equals to null, then simply return. We will return stream.empty. And since our provider already fetches the data inside the constructor user provider, then we do not need this. We can remove it entirely because our data is already fetching. Let's install the app.